of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Hart? Here. Ms. Candace Allison? Mr. Ruggie?
Here.
Ms. Ryan? Present. Mayor Knoll?
Here.
First item we have is consent agenda item.
Everybody good with everything on there? There's 4 items. So you're going to abstain from
He's going to abstain.
number 4? Okay. I'll offer it with Mr. Redmond abstaining from number 4.
I'll second that.
Offered by Mayor Knoll, second by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ruggie?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Knoll?
Yes.
Resolution R-1590, resolution approving county hazard mitigation plan.
Who's speaking of this briefly, guys? Everybody?
I can give an update, Mayor. This is part of the county overall plan. I think we're about 7 or 8 steps that were put into place over the last, I would say, year and a, probably year plus. The work that went into it was through the OEM office and Mr. Lubner as the engineer, and our concerns are in the plan. And it is important for the borough to recognize this is a county plan that we can update our portion annually if there's any changes. And I think if anyone looked at the plan online, I think out of the 15 or 17 different bullets that we could hit, I think we hit 16 of them as part of what we need to do going forward. So it does open the door for funding for the county, for funds that may come through too that could trickle down to the borough. So there's really nothing further that I can say about the plan. It is online. It was put into place, and that's all I can comment on.
Any questions or concerns at the table?
I have one question. The OEM office, because the hazard mitigation plan deals with the OEM, post-Sandy, the FEMA mandates critical service buildings are required to meet the 100 and 500 year storm. Tim, the fire building does not meet the 100 or 500 year storm, but yet we put our OEM office back in that building. Does that jeopardize potential funding in the future if it does not meet that standard? Because it is a critical type service.
And then obviously, I guess the second.
So the question is, if we adopt this plan, is that addressed in the plan? And I don't know that off the top of my head, so that's a separate question. Do I believe putting the OEM, if the OEM office went back into its house that it was in, and the equipment, any mitigations that may have been done to bring it out of harm's way, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I think they've done whatever they could to bring things up out of harm's way based on certain elevations. I'm not sure that that's going to jeopardize this plan at all, and if there's something going forward where there's a plan to relocate the OEM office, is that what you're suggesting? We'd like to know that.
Well, what I'm asking you is if we put our OEM office back in harm's way, just as we can't put our town hall back in harm's way. I just want to make sure that our OEM office that was pre-existing at the fire department, which was fine, that by moving forward, by having our OEM office there now, if, God forbid, a potential hazard happens or funding comes along and they do go, let's see your OEM office, and they come down here and they see that it's in harm's way, why did you put it here? I don't want to jeopardize our funding, potential funding, as you stated, we can have funding. I have a problem if our OEM office is in harm's way. The fire department did flood. It received water from the storm, and it is below the 100-year elevation and the 500-year. So, again, are we spending money putting in an OEM office that's in harm's way?
At this time, when it happened, there was no alternative. Is that correct? And it had been there?
Yeah,
So
and
perhaps and I don't know, I did not work on this, I'm just suggesting there had to be a reason.
The other side of the coin, it is something that has to be addressed, especially when we're
Can I make a
some of the possibilities of where the new borough will.
Oh, and the new one, yes, going forward,
And if like
yes.
the new borough hall, if we get a police department in that building, I would assume at that point in time, we would bring the critical services over. I mean, the fire department is not going anywhere, it's a brick building, I get that. But my concern is jeopardizing as the county and the state and the federal government mandating that we comply with these rules.
The only one that the police should be hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree.
There was
I
always
agree.
Because it's a backup dispatch right now.
Right. I just don't want to
I'll
jeopardize.
follow up with the OEM coordinator and I will get you
Yeah.
a definite answer as to what that circumstance is.
All right, thank you. That's
I
all.
think going forward, it has to be, especially if we have the opportunity. Currently, we don't have a place to put it, but as we go forward, it sounds like we might.
Mayor, if I may on that, I'm not sure if we have an elevation certificate on that building yet. If we don't, we should get one quickly. All right, see where the livable space is, and of course the floor of the base. But what we can do is, if it doesn't meet that criteria, what we can do is we can possibly put in for another PW, project worksheet through FEMA to floodproof that building. It's not a residential building and it's in the A zone already. So if there's any work that needs to be done, perhaps something along those lines might satisfy the concerns.
I think we'll have direction by the end of May when we kind of decide where we're going with the other facilities.
Thank you, Tim.
Right? So we'll know a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns on 1590? Okay, I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Resolution R-1591, resolution authorizing website RFP.
This is basically, I know Ms. Ryan and a group of people worked on this a while, and they did a lot of volunteer work on this. We appreciate it. And I think everybody in town and a lot of the folks that come to the council meetings regularly know we've been talking about this for a while. We want to upgrade, and it doesn't mean we don't want to use any of the same people connected. This is simply an RFP. You want to head this up?
No, thank you, Mayor, that's what it is. I'm so sorry, I'm blanking here. Jen Olson and Al are professionals, and they did an incredible amount of work putting this together. And we're going to put it out there and see what comes back.
I think it's fair to say it was one of the best proposals I've seen from a volunteer group. So, thank you everybody that worked on it. Anybody have any comments or concerns on the table? Okay, I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
And I'll second that.
second by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Resolution R-1596. This is a resolution authorizing a Title 39 agreement with the Condo Association.
Bruce, you want to talk briefly about this?
Sure.
Everybody?
You might remember we did this a month or so ago with the Bowman property for private condominium developments. There's a statute that allows them to consent to the municipality to enforce police traffic regulations, that's what Title 39 is,
Okay.
on their private property. And so they have submitted this consent, and this is the resolution accepting that consent.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns at the table?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan, second by Mr. Park. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Resolution R-1597, resolution approving purchase purchase transfer of liquor license 131733301901L.
Bruce, you want to talk to this briefly?
Sure, this is just it's a standard person-to-person liquor license transfer. There is, my understanding is there are plans that have been filed or soon will be filed with the planning board.
Yes.
But this resolution specifically does not authorize any of that, it's just the transfer of the license.
And this doesn't require a public hearing? Does it? Okay. Anyone at the table have any questions, concerns, comments? No? Okay, I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Resolution R-1598, resolution appointing Shade Tree Commissioner Officer, that would be Ms. Francie, and also appointing him as Tree Commissioner.
I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second that.
second by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Moving on to ordinances, on for introduction, setting a public hearing date for May 20th, with ordinance 0-15-17, and ordinance amending and revising chapter 3, section 15, drug-free school zones, drug-free public areas, subsection A, updating the drug-free public building and land format.
So this is just for a hearing on 520. Everybody good with 520? Okay, Carol Alford?
Offered by Mayor Melham.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Melham.
Yes.
On to final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-15-13. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. We did have a public hearing on April 1st.
But we're gonna have another, because we didn't have the CFO here, and we also had questions from the table, and I think we got some answers on them. So I'm gonna open it up for public hearing, the second one officially, on 1513. Mr. de Blasio, our CFO, is here. We can, if anyone has any questions in the audience for him, on 1513.
Is there,
Just name and address for the record.
Ross Christensen, 164 Linden Avenue. I don't think we have that.
It's just not in order.
Yeah, Karen.
That should be
It's
in
there,
there.
it's on order. Oh, okay.
Pat, you want to talk briefly, just let the folks know what it is?
Sure.
And then we'll take questions.
Yeah, when the budget is built, first of all, this came into play when we introduced our budget on March 18th. So when the budget is created, there's certain restrictions on it, and those restrictions are called cap. And the state allows you to increase that cap base by 1.5%. Well, what this ordinance does, it allows you to add another 2% into your cap base. So it allows the budget to go up there another 2% if needed. But the most important part of this is that it establishes a cap bank. So that's money that's set aside and it's to be used if needed only. So it doesn't give you the authority to spend, only the municipal budget allows you to spend. But this is something that's needed because we have lots of storm repairs and issues that are coming across this town. And it's simply, in a little jug there, you put the funds and it sits there if it's needed for future budgets only.
And
Pat, explain that.
So we're all clear at the table. You would still need 4 votes to spend X amount of dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we take a super majority of the council to vote to spend anything over and above the monies we're talking about.
The standard budget.
The standard budget.
Yes.
And this would be just a clarification, because we talked earlier, but for clarity, I don't think it's my position, I don't think it's fiscally responsible to be making funds more available to, but you, as you explained it, it's not a free piggy bank, it's something that's there for us in deep reserve, I guess,
Yes.
kind of thing, and if another catastrophic event happens,
Yes.
and stuff like that. And I believe you were explaining it, how it was gonna help with potentially getting other funding.
Yeah, so this was also approved last year. You did the same thing last year. There's nothing new here. And this year's a little different because we're applying for some grant monies. And what we did is we moved some numbers outside of our cap, which gives us cap relief this year, but we're probably going to have to bring that back in our cap next year. So to make it simple is that we're probably going to call upon those funds next year if needed.
Okay, so.
It's like a larger community, basically falls under the other. Where are these funds going, extra funds going to come from?
There are only funds, it's only a number that your budget's allowed to be increased by. So it doesn't authorize us to spend any more money. So it's a number that sits there, it's not cash that we have, but it's a number that sits in this piggy bank and can be called upon in future budgets if needed.
If it's needed, where does the money come from?
Okay, that's fine.
Taxes, obviously.
Taxes, bond, right? This is bond,
Yeah,
So
bond,
does,
bonding.
so does that raise the taxes by 3.5%? Are we putting, you're saying we're putting this money, this cap money, in to set aside?
Yes.
You also said that we've already taken from that cap money from last year, if I understood you correctly, and used it, so now we have to put that cap money back. So where are we getting it, where is the benefit to increasing it by a cap and throwing this extra 3.5% in this piggy bank?
Right.
Where we're switching funds back and forth,
Right.
which if we took it like that, we do a budget every year. Why not come with a real budget and say, we need to increase it by this much? If we do a budget every year, then bring it to the budget. I don't understand this cap thing
Yeah.
how it helps us.
Yeah, it's hard, it's kind of hard for me to explain, but I'm trying my best here. So what happens is, as we develop the budget cap fluctuates every year, okay? So if you need to, there's a cap bank that sits out there if you need to call upon, if you need to raise your budget for any reasons that may come up, that those funds are available to, you're allowed to raise your budget by that number, you know? Where does it come from? Taxation if it's needed. So what we're doing is we're creating a cap bank. We're creating funds set aside and to be called upon if you need it. Now, there's other things restricting the budget. There's a levy cap, right? That levy cap, you're only allowed to raise your taxes by 2% year after year. So there's a couple of things in play here. This cap bank issue has been going on for years for all the towns. It's something, it's an older law, and it's kind of been replaced by the new law, which is the levy cap. And that's the one really meant to restrict taxation. This year, this one's real important to do. This ordinance here is important to approve tonight.
Why? How does, that's what I just can't seem to wrap my mind around. Well, no, it's not that, that's what I'm saying. Oh, I'm sorry, Gerb Softman, last name S as in Sam, O, F as in Frank, and Ann.
Thank you.
Kim Stark, 315 F Shore Drive. I'm gonna try and see if I understand it.
Yep.
And maybe if I put it in my terms, it'll help everybody else understand it.
Thank you.
Our budget is here.
Yep.
We can increase it X amount, and that's our cap.
Yep.
This allows us in future years to increase it more,
If needed. Yep.
if needed. So it just sits there, and it allows us to exceed that cap, should we need it. That's all.
It's not saying we're exceeding that cap. It gives
Not
us
this
the
year.
opportunity to do that if we need to.
Right,
Yes.
and it also expires in 3 years. Every 3 years, any cap bank goes away. So it's just a revolving number. It's not new. We've been doing that for a while.
So it's kind of like giving us extra credit or extra equity
Yes,
kind of thing to draw from, even
If
though we
needed.
haven't drawn from it.
if needed, yes, that's all.
And the percentage in here is only to say it has to do with the dollars of the current budget. So
Yeah.
next year, if we need to exceed the bank, we can only exceed it 3.5% as to what this year's spending is. That's why there's
Right on.
a percentage in
Yes.
it. Okay. Did I help?
Yeah. Yeah, yes, you did.
Thank you.
Name and address?
Yes, hi, Tina Kemmer, with a K, K-A-E-M-M-E-R-E-R, 164 Linden. I understand and I thank you for explaining that because that's very helpful. My concern is the source of where that's going to be coming from, because if one of those sources could be additional taxation, I can tell you, I for one, as a homeowner of a small condominium association, we can't bear to have higher property taxes. It's so high already that some of the owners that are trying to sell their places, they can't sell them because the property taxes really overshadow the value. And we still have so many problems from Hurricane Irene, from Hurricane Sandy, obviously. So my big concern is I do understand that we need that piggy bank reserve for, all kinds of, catastrophic or what have you may happen. But if there's a possibility that we're going to be taxed further on top of what we've already got, I think there's a tipping point where that could be a very negative effect, where people are going to they're going to walk away from their homes, more so than what they already are doing. So I ask you to really seriously consider that before we, if that's the possibility that we're all going to be taxed a little bit more, it may be just a little bit too much. Thank you.
Carl Levy, 64 Linden Avenue. To expand on what Tina just said, that I also live in those condos over there, and we're paying well over $9,000 for 1,200 square feet. Compared to a lot of the other homes in town, I believe we're being overtaxed. We are extremely high. I could point out one residence just on Highlands Avenue, two-family house, pays $200 more than what we do. And they have income. What do we do about that?
You can file a tax appeal.
We have.
You can file
Go
a
ahead,
tax.
hold on,
One
let's see on that.
164 Linden, you can file a tax return, and the tax return, my property is assessed at 279.
Now, we'll get back to this in the public portion, but right now we're talking about the cap. So this is the public hearing on the cap.
Chris Francine, 36 Fifth Street. Perhaps you could expand on the 4-vote supermajority required to dip into the cap. That would make people feel comfortable.
It requires 4 out of 5 votes,
And,
not a simple majority.
correct, and that happens when you go from the 2% cap limit into the 3.5. Is that a fair statement?
I would say that's fine.
Okay. So at this point, it takes 4 votes to make it happen.
We can spend that piggy bank.
And, you know, judging by the sentiments in the audience, they're gonna
And
have
then
trouble getting
you
4
can
votes.
have something on it that might happen in a year. I'm sure you have, obviously a lot more turnout than had on it, that's possible.
I use the word fiscally responsible, and it scares me that we give more money to governing bodies to spend. But Pat did explain to me, and I understand the value of it, but thanks to what Chris pointed out, it does take 4 votes for us to spend that money. And I think we're all trying to work in that direction. I think we also need to recognize that we have to work on our budget and what we need to cut out of that, and that's the process as we speak. I'm having difficulty to want to say yes to this, but I think it's a necessary evil that we have to do as a community, because God forbid if another catastrophic event comes or something we need to fix. We have some problems. We have a major sewer problem in our town that we're gonna have to, I'm hoping through grants and other resources and Pat's ability to shake the tree that way, we can tap into that, but I think we need to have that Band-Aid or that piggy bank.
Well, I agree with that, okay? I mean, of course we don't want to raise taxes, it's the last thing. Everybody's overburdened, we all live here too, and we are bearing that also. So of course we don't want to do it, but I also have that concern. What if? We didn't think so soon after Irene that we would have Sandy. Nobody could believe that Sandy would be so catastrophic. And we have to balance this. I hope as we go further, perhaps we can get other grants and we can reduce the budget or find another source from the county or whatever. But I don't want to say yet, blanketly, that I would vote yes or no. We need to have the funds available to our community.
The biggest thing I have to say really honest, you guys have to understand that one thing is that Monmouth County is going to take taxes out. They're going to come along in the next year and reevaluate the areas, okay? That has nothing to do with us, okay? But it could take away money that we take. We want to put in that cap out of our pockets already because they want more, okay? It's in the papers, there's articles the last 2 days about it. They're going to evaluate properties that were pre-Sandy, now after Sandy, and prices are going to go up on taxes for them. They're not going to leave that money on the table. They're not going to leave it on the table. That's going to be pulled back from Monmouth County. It's going to come out of our pockets. I'm here, I'm going to pay. There's not much I can do. So that cap that we have is for the town. But overall, you may see some increases if Monmouth County raises theirs, their level, for the payback of everything that we owe them. So I'm just going to let you know, in the next couple of years, you may find it very difficult. It's not coming from here in Highlands, but it's coming from the county or the state. It's going to happen.
My question then is, we're raising this cap because of what reason?
To have money that we do not have set aside if anything comes up. Do you have a savings account or a 401k or something that you're putting aside to keep yourself going for later on? You don't have to use it, do you?
Yeah, but
But if all you want it, I'm just trying to explain something. You have something here that you can use. It's taking something. We don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
But if we have to touch it, we have it. Otherwise, we're going to have to raise taxes more the following year.
Why are the taxes going up? Is it because we're not collecting taxes from them?
Cost.
No. We also lost 30% of our ratables after Sandy.
Okay.
And when we said that 3 days later, everybody said, no, that's too high.
If that's
Chris, how much was it in millions of dollars?
If you lose 30% of your rateable,
2.5. No. It was 200.
200.
Okay, well then, somewhere we need to cut.
You
You
couldn't
lose
cut.
that much money, if you're not taking in that money, you need to cut somewhere.
Agreed.
You just can't tell the taxpayer, well, we lost those, so you guys who are still here and paying,
As we are
we
to.
have to, yeah, we have to raise it. That's not fair. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Not saying it's fair.
Just one, Pat, at this point, I thought you said in the budget meeting that this was a little bit of a public relations ploy that enhanced your status to get the enhanced grant from the state. By showing that the town, we're felt we needed the money.
It would help us applying for the grant. That's all I can say.
Okay, if I said it incorrectly, I.
No, you said it, okay.
But that is a factor.
Yeah, it would help us with applying.
Sir, you had a question in the back. Name and address.
Kevin Thompson, 8 Bay Street. So obviously we have enough money in our fiscal budget going forward this year to cover all our bases. We set the cap money aside. When we talk about cutting back and these people's concern that the money that we're spending, we're trying to be extremely tight with our money so our tax dollars go farther. I know that people are making $100,000 in the barrel as employees are getting a 6% raise in their salary this year. At the same time, we're going up in taxes, and you got people on 800 square feet or 900. 1,200 paying $900,000. That's a shocking number.
I don't know who's getting 6% raise.
Who's getting 6%?
Pardon me? I understood that Mr. Hill, yeah, right, I'm asking at the same time, I'm not accusing. Is Mr. Hill going up from $100,000 to $106,000 this year?
No.
Something pretty good.
No. I can equivocally say no.
That's a shame, but I meant for you. But the,
No,
I
you're asking.
I saw in the budget when I was trying to study it, that the existing salary appeared to be 100.
And most of
And they
them,
projected this year to be 106.
most of our employees are all collective bargaining agreement contracts too. That have been done at 3 or 4 years at a clip. And most of those are 2% raises.
And I know, that's why I understand a 2% raise is in the norm, or it could not, it might not even be considered a raise, it could be considered as part of the hiring.
Cost of living or whatever, right, yeah.
I'm not sure of that, and the budget wasn't clear on it, so
I would tell you that probably 95% of our employees are all covered under collective bargaining agreement.
Okay,
That are 3 and 4 years, depending on the length of the agreement.
so I guess, go look at the budget, it's kind of interesting. I
We
see
have.
it go from 100
We've
to
had-
106.
We've had dozens of meetings on it, and
But why is it written like
Well,
that?
can I answer?
sure, that was the
Just
CFO.
real quick, we will have a public hearing on the budget, I believe it's,
In May.
Yeah, the first meeting in May, so
Right.
we can go over that in detail, but to quickly answer that, because we want to stay focused on this ordinance.
Absolutely.
To quickly answer that, is in the municipal budget, we do have the salary budgeted there, we have a potential contractual obligation of a sick time buyback, whatever the buybacks are, there's a potential, it doesn't mean it's gonna be tapped in, it doesn't mean it's gonna be used, but it's potentially there if,
Potential 6% increase.
it's not that high, but that's okay.
Okay.
And so that's how the budget's built. The budget's
Okay.
built always to be higher than what the person's gonna be receiving, because he can't have it the other way. So there's a bit of a safeguard in there too.
I understand.
Okay, so that's it, and we can
Thank you.
explain more at the public hearing.
Kim Scorpion, 315 Extra Drive. I just want to clarify for everybody that by adopting this, it doesn't automatically mean the taxes are going to go up next year. It just, in an emergency situation, it gives us an extra $138,000 to put in our expenses that's above and beyond the cap. And like I said, it's not an automatic tax increase. I'm on the finance committee. If this was going to automatically increase our taxes, I would be bitching and moaning too. But it's not. It's a safety net for us. It allows us to exceed the cap law by a specified amount. It's not free spending, and it just puts in a cushion where we could possibly spend more should we have an emergency situation.
Okay, you join them?
Yeah, Tina Cameron, 164 London. So that's great, and I get that. So My question is then, do we have a plan of attack with how we're gonna go about doing that if we do need to get the monies? Are we curating something out where it's, we've got a committee that's writing grants, or we're doing, have we got that figured out so that we can plan ahead of time, rather than, having, taxing is perhaps higher on the list, should be more on the bottom, because we've got all these other things lined up ahead of time in front of that. So do we have a plan of action for that, in case we need to go ahead and move forward with
We
this?
have, I think everything you're talking about and a little more happening.
Okay,
So we have one major project coming into the town. That's already been approved at the planning board, and permits already gone out and everything else. It's on a property that had no improvement, so there was no tax on the improvement. So that will be money you never saw before ever coming into there. The marina next to it just won an award from the state as one of the best engineered concepts. That's gonna be done and start construction at sometime in June. That will bring in revenue to the town too, because that's gonna have a couple of new buildings on there too that will be taxed that were never there before. And there's two other people that are talking to different people in the town about developing land right now that is vacant.
that's great to hear.
And there are grant writers on the staff that we've hired.
Okay, so that's an ongoing process.
Ongoing process. And the finance committee is an ongoing meetings that we have, that we try to have them at least once or twice a month. And we had, I don't know how many exactly, but we had a lot of meetings on this before we even got to this point in the budget.
Which shows that citizens are on it too.
There's 3 or 4 citizens on it, and 2 council people, and the CFO's there, and Mr. Hill. Okay. Close public hearing.
On final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-15-13, calendar year 2015, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
And that brings us to other business, the Borough Engineer's status report.
Dale, did you draw me
Thank you, Mayor. Just to give a quick update on all the projects we have going on. The main stormwater improvement project, it's currently under review by the EIT. That was sent to them back in March. The DEP did reach out to us with a couple questions. We played a little phone tag today, so I'm hoping to get with the gentleman tomorrow and answer what his concerns are. The North Street Pump Station, that design is just about completed. Right now, the permitting process is underway as well. So we're still on track to go to construction with that later this year. The Bay Street retaining wall, there is a meeting tomorrow between the resident, my project manager, and the contractor. They supplied a new color mock-up for the wall panel, which was much needed. The first one wasn't that good. So hopefully this one will be better. We can move on from there. The panels are currently being precast, so hopefully we will get this done over with shortly and move to construction by the end of the month. What I'll call the DBIZ project, the pipe coming down Warwich and Linden. Plans have been completed and submitted to the DOT in Monmouth County. The county has come back with a couple review comments. We actually have a meeting with them scheduled for next week to review their concerns, and then we'll be able to move on from there, finalize everything, and get this advertised with the summer construction. The ADA walkway project at the community center, those project documents are advanced to completion. It's a small project. We should be advertised by the end of April. So that's a short duration. The streetscape project, survey is completed. Now that Mother Nature cooperated. Design is underway. I'd like to have a meeting with council representatives, hopefully maybe Friday. Mayor, if it's okay with you and the rest of the council, I know Mr. Redmond and Mr. Card were, they met with us last time on the drainage project along with Mr. Hill. If I could keep that team together.
They're pretty on all for it.
That would be great. And gentlemen, if your schedules permit on Friday,
I'm good.
I'd like to bring it over to, I know you're retired, you sleep in, don't you?
No, I have a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, all right, well, all right, forgive me. Yeah, we'll solidify a time, okay? And then once we have that meeting, I want to have a meeting with the business partnership, just to go over their concerns. I mean, I know there are concerns about, work stoppages and business interruptions, and we want to absolutely minimize that as much as possible. Plus, let them know exactly what to expect for this project, what the outcome, the anticipated outcome is. So that's actually an exciting project that's moving quickly, and that's going to be a big change down Bay Avenue this summer. Actually, parts of Waterwich and Shore as well. Speaking of Shore, moving on to that, Phase 2 Shore Drive, which is from Waterwich down to Locust. Those plans have been completed. They're currently in front of DOT for review. So once the DOT gives us their blessing, we can advertise that project and move that to construction. All right, the Shrewsbury Avenue rehab and the North Street storm sewer inflow pipe. Again, Mother Nature cooperated, so we were able to get the survey completed. That design is currently underway, so we're still on pace to go to construction this summer with that as well. Last thing I do want to talk about is the local aid application we submitted last year for 2015. Even though all the talk about the Transportation Trust Fund being depleted and in jeopardy, that the state has advised the borough that they are going to give the borough $83,000 towards this project. It was a small road, it was only one block, if you remember, along Miller Street.
Yeah.
So that'll take about 85% of the cost of that project off the borough's hands.
Good.
Besides that, that's all I have for tonight. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
Good now. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. Roger, could you explain what the Waterwich Shore Drive project is?
What's that?
Could you give us a little bit more detail on the Waterwich Shore Drive project? What does that entail?
Well, Shore Drive is just it's a mill and overlay. So some base repairs, some concrete repairs are needed. Mill off the top surface and resurface that roadway from Waterwich down to Locust. The Waterwich Linden area, that's predominantly a pipe project. Basically, to get the water from sheet flowing down the street, get it underground into the pipe system, and down towards Jones Creek without having that big cascading waterfall, if you will, coming flying down those two roads.
Also, you mentioned that there was a wall, retaining wall going up.
That's up on Bay Street, not Bay Avenue, Bay Street on the other side of town.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the Bay Avenue Street, oh, I'm sorry, Gert Softman, 157 Bay. The Bay Avenue streetscape plan. Has the design been made? What is actually the status? And I know you said you're going to be meeting with the HBP, so
Right, well,
we'll get more information that
it's
way.
currently the way. We do have to demolish one property. That would be 157 Bay, I believe.
Right ahead, that would help me.
Oops.
No, just one side of it would be fine.
Everybody wants to count them all.
Basically what you're looking at is stamped concrete sidewalks. A portion of them with regular sidewalk with a stamped portion, a strip that would look like bricks, but it's actually concrete. But they stamp it and color it to make it look like brickwork. Stamped asphalt crosswalks. So we're going to get rid of those pavers that are currently across Bay Avenue now, and everybody jumps over and their cars pound on and everything. They're going to be gone. Decorative street lamps, street trees, new garbage receptacles, new potted plants, new benches. So basically, your normal streetscape amenities, you're going to see. A lot of the work is from the curb to the buildings. A lot of it's not along Bay Avenue, only during the crosswalk areas.
Right.
But we will do for the business partnership is we're going to have a three-dimensional conceptual plan. So you have an idea of what this is going to look like along the storefronts. So it's good. It's all grant funded, 1.5 million through the business districts. It's going to be something that's going to spruce up the area tremendously.
Right. I mean, what about telephone wires and telephone poles?
The cost to bring them underground is so extensive. The grant, you'd spend at least the grant to take them under. So,
right. But how is that worked into the plan?
Well, what happens is they're still going to be there.
Right.
All right, but the street lamps are lower. Obviously the street trees, the trees that were there prior, they didn't work. They weren't the right trees. They outgrew everything. They were a disaster. And I'm going to be blunt about that. They were a disaster.
Yeah.
So these trees are going to be like the low-growing trees. They're not going to be tangled up in the wires. They're going to get cut in weird angles and everything else. The street lamps will be decorative. They're going to be lit, but they're not going to satisfy your night safety. That's what you have your actual lights out there now for. It'll supplement the lighting, but you're not going to see the big glaring bulbs in these lamps. It'll be almost like like a secondary lighting, if you will. So I mean, the wires are going to be there, but you're not going to focus on them anymore per se. You know, right now when you go down the avenue, you see the wires all crossing it.
I mean, right now I have the most horrendous telephone pole with wires all over the place and, you know, yeah. So,
They've been a challenge trying to get the ADA access ramps to work crossing Bay Avenue, because they always seem to, you know, I don't know if the utility companies thought this was a joke, but they always seem to put the utility poles and the fire hydrants right where the ramp's going to go. So it's been a challenge, but we're getting through.
all right, so timing on that, because I'm still working on plans with the.
No, absolutely.
and all that,
Well, like I said, I wanted to have a meeting with the council reps and Mr. Hill Friday. We'll set a meeting with the partnership shortly thereafter, and when I say shortly thereafter, I'm thinking the next week or two.
Yeah.
All right, and then you know, I want to finalize plans and really move this to construction around Memorial Day.
All right, thanks.
Chris Francie, Fidel, would you go over the timeline on the flood control project? Have you met with DCA yet on the loan?
That's what the EIT was. It's actually not the DCA, it's the DEP.
DCA has to approve the loan, I think.
Well, no, the EIT does that. And that's who we're talking to. The loan is through the Environmental Infrastructure Trust, which is through the DEP. And that was a gentleman I said that had called with a couple of questions. So I called him back, he wasn't there, so hopefully I'll get with him tomorrow. They do have it, a lot of the review was done prior. And I think they just want some clarification on the generator and what we've done different with the station itself.
Are you still shooting for construction starting when?
Well, there's two scenarios. If we don't get this resiliency grant that was applied for, the hazard mitigation grant, on the federal level, and we have to use the EIT, we're looking at a fall construction. Because the EIT has a long timeline from when permits are received, at least 45 days after that, before they even allow you to advertise. So that's gonna dump us into the fall to start this. If by chance this resiliency grant happens, there is a chance to get this project underway, under construction, in the summer instead of the fall.
Well, we've already bonded, 1/8 and 3 already. I mean, we technically could bond and move ahead ourselves.
You could, but you know, if
Is
you
that a
want
fair
to proceed,
statement, Pat?
Yes.
if you want to proceed that way without the EIT, that's council's decision.
Well, not without an EIT at this point.
Well, the EIT, you can't go to construction without their blessing. So if you go beforehand, all bets are off.
They just qualify.
Right.
Something
Can't go to
for the female.
construction without what? I'm sorry, Thompson, 8 Bay Street, can't go to construction without what?
Without their blessing. You know, if you're going to use the EIT money, and you need their sign off, their approval before you can even go to construction. So if you start ahead of time,
Yeah.
they're pretty much going to do this thing and say, okay, we're at it.
Where do you stand with the resiliency grant?
The state wanted additional information, and now it's from many of the towns. So we did submit that first week in April as requested. So they're currently under review again right now, and that's the state conduit again for that is also the DEP.
Perfect.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Peter Ball, Levering Place. With regard to the Shore Drive project, many years ago, there was a site plan approval for C Street Ferry. Nothing was ever done on the property, they never perfected that. I wondered, were there any provisions in their approval that had them contribute, since they're a major user of that portion of our town road, to any kind of repaving of that surface? It's unfair for you, I'm sure you're not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd have to go back. It's an interesting statement. I'd have to go back and look and see if it was something in there, if it still applies or if it expired or something. But we could certainly take a look at it.
The 8 Carolyn Brouillon, 12 Miller Street, the ADA project, is that gonna happen in conjunction with the streetscape?
The ramps I was talking about? Yes. Basically, when you touch a crosswalk, when you touch curbs, sidewalks, whatever, all right, you have to address the ADA concerns. So if you have a ramp that's out of compliance, or in some cases, no ramp there, so it's full height curb.
Well, I just know how the government works, so I wanted to make sure that was happening. So that you didn't do it and then have to rip it up and do it again.
Oh, God, no. No, this is a one-shot deal. And then, like I said, the crosswalks will be redone with the stamped asphalt at that time.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, and you said there was a small project abutting Miller Street or next to Miller Street? What was that gonna be?
Oh, that was what we submitted for last year, the council wanted. was Miller Street from Bay to Shore. It was that just one quick block hit that would have qualified for the DOT because they did fund the hill portion.
Right.
And the state did state that they're going to allot $83,000 towards that project.
And that's 80 to 90% of the total cost, you said?
Yeah, that's I think the estimate was around 115, something like that.
Excellent, thank you.
Sir?
Carl Rodriguez, 64 Talking about Short Drive again, we have this $40 million project going on at the end by the old trailer park.
Mhm.
Are they going to contribute to the community development, the road down there and the sewers? Or are they going to pass on it?
That was all worked out at the planning board. I'd have to look back to see what the developers agreement was. I'm not sure anything with the road. I know there was some sewer items that went back and forth. But basically, this is predominantly funded by the state.
I see, okay. Because I know in the future, we should, if anybody develops,
Oh, no
they
doubt
should
about
be
it.
responsible for the infrastructure rather than the taxpayer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a lot of that, they did pay some impact, whatever the dollars and cents were for the sewer things there.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was, but they did pay something for that. Okay, so,
I have one more question.
Okay, so-
On the Roger Clemente, 164 Linden Avenue, on that drainage project from Waterwich to Short Drive, is that going to provide the American Legion?
Jones Street?
Oh, into that, that's actually where it's heading, yes.
Okay. Are you going to include my favorite topic, the drainage ditch behind the condominiums? You know, Mr. Hill, you know what I'm talking about?
Right, that would not be part of this project.
Can you come in and connect that and get?
Not during this project, no. No, maybe on a different project, yes, but for this project, no, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Thank you, Dale. Tara, you want to talk about R14-220?
Oh, okay, everybody knows about R14. So Stacy Pritchard and I were asked to, just to look at the language and to make some recommendations, and we did. We did hear from the council, and people had very strong opinions, but what Stacy and I came up with really has not changed since we did the change 6 weeks ago, okay? So the language of the resolution has been changed. This will be available to everybody, I guess, after tonight, okay? But it was the same that was put out several weeks ago. The difference is today we have clarified, just made a simple little change of the language that is in the Highlands employee handbook, stating what they need to do and say if they are on social media. And the final suggestion was that all volunteers who are sworn onto a board, not committee members, but people who are on the zoning board, the planning board, perhaps the master planning board, but that would be up to the mayor, be given a copy of the social media guidelines from the employee's handbook, and they would need to abide by that also. To identify themselves if they are speaking on behalf of the town or not. We do not think that any committee members need to identify themselves or be concerned about anything going forward. So this will be available to the public, and that's what we come up with. This is not a resolution. This is just recommendations that the mayor asked us to come up with.
Is this something you want to put forward in a resolution form? Or do you want to hold it?
I think that we should, but I think that the council needs to discuss it, so I can have that put into a resolution form for the next meeting, and we can have a vote on it.
Would anybody like to move this forward in resolution form?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think it's a waste of time, resources, and insult to freedom of speech.
Okay.
That's my position.
Mr. Redmond? No? Okay.
No? Okay,
Okay,
all right.
okay, public portion? Kim Scorpio?
Kim Scorpio, 315 F Shore Drive. I noticed the street sweeper was out on Shore Drive on Thursday last week or 2 weeks ago. I appreciated Lynn Highlands coming in and sweeping our streets. but I kind of like a heads up, because there were a lot of cars parked on the street, and the street sweeper really, and I noticed it on Bay Avenue too, on Fridays. The street sweeper really doesn't help us if it can't get to the curb. So maybe going forward, I know Short Drive used to be the last Friday of the month, so when I saw it going down towards Locust, I was a little confused, because it was the.
When they're able to provide the service, I gotta be honest with you, when they're willing to come in, we do willingly accept them in, and I understand the traffic and where the cars are parked, and that's an issue because we haven't been doing it on a regular basis. I get your point of that they have to go around the car, but like I said, if they make it available and say, hey, we can come in Thursday too, do a little bit for you, we're not gonna turn them down.
Could we see, we can do it on a more.
I can see if I can get them scheduled on a.
And put that out there so we're a little better prepared.
That's all.
Do we have a private contractor to do that, Kevin?
I know, we're going through the list, we'll get to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all, thank you.
Gert?
My question was answered
Okay.
earlier, so no worries.
164 Linden Ave, I apologize, I can't read the handwriting.
There's a whole bunch.
Tina?
Yes, there you go.
It was taken care of earlier.
Okay. Mr. Clementi?
That's me. My favorite topic is the drainage ditch. You know.
I didn't hear, I apologize.
The drainage ditch, what is it called?
Hillside Village?
Hillside Village. It's been blocked for 5 years. And now, eventually it's going to cause a big problem. And from what I understand, it's on private property, people can't do anything. But it's going to cause a problem down the road. Can we force whoever owns that property to open up? Because it's going to be a health hazard. I mean, could we cite this individual and say, hey, that's got to be open? I mean, there's been people there that were willing to pay for it, to open it up by themselves. It wouldn't be a town expense.
Right.
But you have to get permission to get onto the property.
From the private property owners. Mr. Hill, what was the road?
I mean, this has been going on for 5-6 years.
Well, it was exacerbated, of course, by the Irene event. We can see what we can do, but I can't infringe on the private property owner.
In the past, I know we've been turned away.
Yeah, but can't you find some law saying, hey, you created a problem, a hazard? We're going to force you to do that?
That is possible, I just don't
Take a
know
look at
enough
it
about
with
it.
their,
Sure.
the borough attorney and administrator will down to the village, sir, and see how much it is impacting health and,
Because, because.
not that we don't believe you.
But eventually, you walk up, all the way up that other street towards the condominium. The drain is filled with this red soil. That red soil is iron. Iron is going to cause vegetation to die. You're going to have more problems if you don't keep that drainage flowing.
So get down there and take a look and see what it is you can do without it being, impacting. Marty, 164 Linden?
And my question was answered.
Okay. Ruth and Carl, 164 Linden? Answered, okay. Neil, 164 Linden?
No, I'll just.
Noel, I apologize.
That's all right, my question is answered.
Okay. Carol?
Answered.
Okay. You did a pretty good job, huh, in our meeting. Carol Bucket.
It's over.
Are there any chickens here, by the way? No chickens?
No chickens, I are talking chicken. I have several questions. First
Great.
of all,
We have several.
the beach cleanup. Carol's gonna look into that. I'm
The
working on
beach
it.
cleanup?
Right. Carol, we have not had a meeting with volunteers yet, but I already ascertained that we would be working on the town buildings and we would not be going on private property. I can ask
What
people.
about the beach next to us on Matthew Street?
I didn't even get down there. I went once, I drove, and then I was blocked. And since I spoke to you, I guess it was the day before Easter, I just have not had time to get back there. But I will. I could not drive my car through to get to it. And I believe I have to check with Tim. It is indeed a public beach that people should have access to, and it's blocked. It is. So we'll work on it.
Okay, now, we're having a major problem in our complex, and part of it is the fault of our previous inept management company. and part of it is the fault of the builder that we hired to reconstruct the thing. But I think a major part of it is the building inspection department.
Okay.
We have had 3 sewer pipes break in the last 4 weeks. Basements covered in sewage, because they were not properly strapped, they were not properly pitched, which is all part of the building department. And we called the contractor on it, and he said, you passed the certification. I do not believe that one inspector went down there to see anything under those buildings. Because pipes, we have found people's toilets are connected, showers are not. They're not even connected to the sewer system. People take a shower, runs right in the basement. And also a section of the G building where the foundation collapsed. So also the floor is all broken up and they never repaired that. Now how could a building inspector not observe these things? The straps are supposed to be every so many feet. They are not. Some of the pipes are held up with bricks that fell off our wall.
How long ago was that repair done?
Pardon?
When was those dated those repairs approximately?
When the repairs were done after sand,
Okay, so in the
it
last
was in the
15 years.
big construction.
Pull
We had to
permits?
reconstruct 80 units.
He can pull all
80
the
units
records.
and 7 building basements.
Okay.
Which
Not
are-
okay, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so they were all reconstructed, and they all should have been properly inspected. I spoke to the building inspector, he insisted he went down there. I think he did one building, and then passed the whole thing. And the same, the plumbing inspector, I spoke to him also, and I don't know what his take was on it, because he called me personally and said he did do the inspection. But I don't know how far he went if showers and bathtubs aren't connected to the sewer system.
We would have, obviously, the inspections on file, Mr. Hill told me.
Yeah, it
I
just
know it's not
says,
gonna, I don't know if it's gonna say
no,
each
if the
individual.
second box is checked, the building has been inspected according to blah, blah, whatever. But the strapping is something that goes way back. You have to strap up your pipes, or
Yeah, by
once
certain
people
feet,
start using
straps,
them, they're gonna collapse. And
Did you have
that's
somebody-
happening. So it has cost us in excess of $30,000 in this last 4 weeks. $30,000 to get somebody to remove the shit and
Literally.
clean it up. To be practical, you know, I mean, it's the best way to say it.
I understand. Have they given you anything in writing saying that it was based on?
Well, I sent a letter to the contractor today, I sent a note to him this evening.
The current one or the former one?
Pardon?
The former contractor or the new one?
No, the former contractor.
Okay.
And we don't have a new one, we just are doing repairs.
Right.
I asked him if he would be willing to testify under oath in court if necessary, that the building inspector went under every building. And I haven't gotten an answer because I only just sent it. But we may have to sue everybody. You know, we're in a really, really seriously bad situation.
So currently now, they actually, did they cap the showers or they're still?
Well, we're finding more and more every time we look. Right now, our major problem is the sewers
Oh, I understand.
that are exploding, and they weren't properly done. They weren't properly done. You can see the pipes, they're separating. They're separating because people are using their bathrooms. I mean, come on. You know, so it's a bad situation, and I do feel that the contractor is partially responsible, but I do also feel the town is responsible as far as the building inspector is concerned.
And you have a list of materials and everything that they used when they did it?
Well, they have to prove that.
No, I'm saying for your own records.
Oh, yeah,
You have all that, materials used and all that?
we have pictures. We have pictures of everything.
I'll make sure.
And the pipes where they came apart, where they broke off, where they.
I mean, previously when they did the work, you have anything that shows
We
like what
probably
they
have nothing
used,
previous.
the grading of pipe and you know, that kind of
We
stuff?
probably have nothing previous to it. It's 50 years old.
No, when they did the repairs.
But Carol, didn't you have a project manager doing, overviewing the whole work? down there?
They were supposed to, according to FEMA, they were supposed to, but apparently they didn't have one.
Did you contact them?
No, we haven't contacted them yet. I mean, I think it's.
I would think if they were the project manager, they would have had to make sure that everything was inspected right.
Right, but now they're denying that they had one, but I was at a meeting. I was at a meeting, I was at a conference call meeting with FEMA. And they insisted that we have a supervisor of the job. And one of the contractors was supposed to be the supervisor of the job. Then suddenly he disappeared, then somebody else came.
So did the person watching it. So they're gonna, obviously the first thing you gotta do is pull the inspections and permits and.
If FEMA funds are involved, there's a
That's my
world of
point.
hurt coming.
It's a whole going backwards, big time.
Yeah.
Right.
FEMA funds were involved, Karen? Obviously.
I don't know that FEMA funds were involved, our insurance was involved. We paid them $7 million. We paid them $7 million to do that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yep. And I'd just like to make a comment on the taxes. Nobody in town likes the condominiums, but the condominiums are supporting this town. Because we pay a lot of taxes. And the fact is, when you have a reevaluation, you didn't have to accept the last one, and you said you wouldn't accept it until you're perfectly satisfied. But, for example, I have a condominium up here, it's 1,000-something square feet. Condominium below me, 1,000-something square feet. Our land is $180,000. That's where you get it. And somebody up there around the table said, file an appeal. You can't appeal the land value.
Okay.
And that's the big mistake. And you need to worry about that in your next evaluation. And maybe you should do an evaluation. Okay, I think I'm finished for now, but not really. I probably have exceeded my.
We'll be here in May too, so no problem. Katie Reed?
Katie Reed, 7 South Harbor Avenue. I actually wanted to talk about taxes. First, I wanted to, last time we talked about the recreation center, and I was glad to hear it was getting approved, and then the price tag was $892,000. It's like almost $1 million to rebuild what we had, and I thought was a little excessive. Just want that on the record. I have a concern about the taxes going up in these you know, the 2015, everybody's supposed to be in compliance with raising your house or, you know, coming into compliance with the flood zones, and then they're going to start raising the flood insurance if you're not in compliance to get people in compliance persuasion. So my question is, these homes where the people, they can't afford these new taxes and they're not going to raise their homes, when they sit, these homes that are sitting, there's a couple already that are sitting, they can't be bought because you have to come in with cash to buy them, because nobody will give you a mortgage because you don't have flood insurance. So we're going to see more and more of these homes as the flood insurance rates start to rise and people find themselves not being able to afford the taxes plus flood insurance plus increasing taxes, which, you know, everybody knows is coming. We can feel it, we can smell it, we can taste it. So the flood insurance rates are going to rise, taxes are going to rise, and these houses, they can't be sold because nobody has the cash to buy them. They're going to sit. And then the other houses, like even like your home, that is just, the bank's going to own it, it's just going to sit there. They're just sitting.
We're in mitigation on our house. So.
There has to be a plan to get rid of them.
If
I'm
they're
sitting
bank
between
owned.
3 vacant homes, and it's just,
If they're
there's
bank
no
owned,
plan
you
to
can't do much about it.
and that's going to erode the tax base, further eroding the tax base, further creating a problem. So, I mean, there really has to be some vision and some.
The only answer before Sandy, during Sandy, and after Sandy is more investment and more rateables. You can only get so much money out of
You gotta knock them down.
5,000
These
people.
houses have to be knocked down.
If it's owned by the bank, you can't knock it down. You can lean against it if you want to, or there's a management that usually supposed to
You
take
can
care of it.
persuade them to take care of their properties.
We're trying, but it's not an easy situation. I have 2 across the street, and they come down, they try to get it out. They do a little bit, take some photos, and leave. So they're really not doing a lot.
But I think if they can do it in a big city like Detroit, we can find a solution.
One of the things I want
It's becoming more and more of an issue.
one of the things I've been exploring, Kevin brought up banking. We could start exploring writing ordinances that allow us to go after vacated homes, not CO
Look
compliant.
at the one right behind you there, Nolan,
So-
the one with the cardboard up right there on Bay Avenue,
So-
crack shack. Like,
But to be aggressive, we need to write ordinances that are gonna be aggressive, equally as aggressive, to go after those bank or foreclosed properties or any properties that cannot be, CO or CA compliant.
more of an issue.
I agree with you, by doing that, because the banks are what are gonna kill this community, like you said.
I agree with you on that issue, Doug, and I'll speak from my own personal experience. I have a house on Seadrift Avenue that I'm walking away from. I've gotten no help with rent. The bank has put me through the ringer. The bank has not dealt with me in a fair manner and stuff. I've had a short sale, I've had a contract to sale on this property for over a year, have danced with the bank through trying to get the short sale approval. They're not gonna short sale approval on me. They're foreclosing. They're going through because they will get paid 100% from HUD when they foreclose on them. So that's their whole game plan. And they send somebody regularly to shovel the walk and to mow the lawn, but it is an empty house, it's not CO compliant, it's not, so that's the only way we can really force banks, is if we require them, they can't sit with properties that are uninhabitable. And they're not dealing with me, and the only way we can force them to the table is to do a town ordinance to do that, because they're not gonna do it any other way.
I'll tell you where it becomes a worse issue, where you're talking about going through that process. Now imagine if at the end, you owed more than it was worth before Sandy.
I know.
Because that's what was happening with a lot of folks too. So now they won't foreclose. So it's literally a stalemate. And that's happening in about 50 houses in the town right now.
Yeah, and that's.
Now, what about some kind of eminent domain in situations like this? Town
Well,
permitted?
a couple of things are gonna happen though, and I don't mind going down, exploring any road we're talking about, but they're gonna cost money too. Because if we're gonna go and demolish stuff, we're gonna then have to bond money, knock them down, lien the properties, and then we're gonna be in the real estate business basically to sell those properties and get our money back. That's not gonna happen in 30 days. I didn't mean, I'm sorry.
That might get the town out of the hole.
No, but you're gonna spend X amount of dollars, we're talking about caps and not raising
No,
taxes.
but it just leaves me from there is,
I understand. And the problem is, in my opinion, every single one has unique circumstances about it that it's not gonna take one ordinance, it's gonna take 10 ordinances. And we can do all of that, but 5 out of those 10 are gonna cost you money. In the end, you'll get your money back, but it may be 5 years.
Well, there's another issue too with these banks. A lot of these banks will not foreclose, and then they send that mortgage into a holding company.
Yes,
which
oh, yeah,
is not
no,
a bank,
yeah.
so they can do anything they want.
Well, what happens is they want write-off too, obviously, and they're gonna get reimbursed with some kind of, federal program.
But we're not the first town that's had to deal with this problem.
right, there has to be a
Fortunately,
solution.
yeah, there's a lot of times, and it takes research, and I'm researching it. I'm not the best researcher, but I am researching. There are ordinances that we can literally just cross off that town's name, put our name in play, and force these banks to comply, whether they sell 5 times over, who cares? Accountability, they have to be CO compliant, it doesn't matter if they're vacated or not.
Just CO compliant.
And that will help us, yes, we want that. But also, I want to answer to your community center. That number was a projected number by TNF. I did a brief walkthrough, I'm going to do more walkthroughs, so there's some rooms I can get. If we spend over $300,000 to renovate that facility, we have a problem.
Right, the repair costs are about $350.
Yeah, so, it was a fair for TNM to put a higher number up, the better to put a higher number up, and then fall well below it, right? Well below it.
Yeah, that number also included the lift, from the architect too.
Some
So,
other
Right,
criteria.
right, so the repair is about $315.
Yeah, so, I know a lot of people called me about that, having a heart attack, I'm like, no, relax, everybody,
Yeah.
take a deep breath.
I think we all get a lot of calls on that.
So,
How are we doing the floodproofing? Is it wet floodproofing or dry floodproofing?
Bill,
Wet.
do you have it? What?
Okay,
there's multiple.
so that brings the cost down?
Yes.
Okay, that was a
Yeah,
concern.
we're gonna probably have, a lot more news on that at the next council meeting, if not the one after that. And we'll put out whatever we get, obviously after the talk. Okay? Motion. Go ahead, Nancy.
Nancy Burton, 22 Atlantic Street, just a question,
Chickens, no?
that's next month, I think, or maybe the budget, we should revisit the budget.
I think you're in.
The houses that are vacant, because the CFO is here, the taxes are still being paid, right? The bank-owned homes, just to.
Yeah. I think the majority of them, the last time we looked, were like 95% water.
And also good news too, Dave Mercado, who's been writing with the new judge that we appointed, is, had some positive effects already because of ordinances that he's, writing summonses on. It's already had great effect.
They're nothing, but that's good.
They're not, yeah, the judges,
Part of the interview process, when we interviewed X amount of people for the new judgeship, was telling them certain things that we felt we were lacking on in the past, and this was one of them, and as Mr. Carr said, it's already.
But maybe these banks don't realize that they're, like we were saying, they don't really come here, that they don't know if.
Well, you know, it's funny, if you're actually looking, see,
Or not, but maybe they don't realize what's gonna happen soon if the homes aren't
I would tell you, in
flood
a
compliant or.
from my experience on the couple individual ones we looked into, they have dozens of them all over the Jersey Shore and other areas impacted, not just by Sandy, by whatever, disasters happened, and 99% of the ones that we did look at, which was more than 2 dozen, were all upside down in the value, and they weren't going to foreclose, so it was a stalemate.
But there are homes selling,
No doubt, and there's homes being
There are
lifted,
a lot
and
of people working, so if we could, make the properties or, one example in my neighborhood, and an idea that I've had is if there are these properties next door to a home that we live in and that's maintained, someone lives in, we could come up with some sort of, so that you could buy the lot next door, so our lot.
by the way, I would agree with that 100%, I don't know.
I don't know
legally
if that's
how we
ever
do
been
that.
spoken about.
That'd be a private sale.
yeah, but I see what
Just to
you're saying.
encourage that, I
Yeah,
don't wanna
yeah,
say
right,
like
right.
tax breaks, because I don't think.
Yeah.
No, that's another, the bank still has to approve that.
That still has to be done.
Probably a short sale
Or they're not gonna want
situation, and they're
And it
not
could be,
gonna
like
want
you're
to
talking
do
about,
it.
it could have changed multiple lenders' hands in a
Yeah,
year.
but sometimes if you just knock the property down, especially if it's not livable, then the lot is sellable and it's easy to start generating new revenue there.
Yes,
If you could just
and I
get
do
rid of-
agree with you on that. I think the enforcement is a difficult thing. You talked about taxes. We have ordinances in places where if it's a public health risk or hazard, we can go in and knock it down and pull those under. And then unfortunately, we can put a lien against it, but then it also ties up a layer into the bank system. But it makes it more attractive for the banks, believe it or not, to sell it now. Because they didn't take money out of the box, but we can make revenue that way. But here's where the quagmire is. Talk about taxes, it takes money out of our piggy bank.
You're gonna make money.
So we had to have you balance it, and it's a difficult balance there. I think what I'm exploring is the ordinances and hitting them hard with that and zero tolerance on it. And when, like I said, this judge that we have is not gonna look a blind eye. We stressed it to him, Kevin, and we did it. It's zero tolerance. So when the banks start seeing these fines coming across the table, maybe they'll take action to clean them up or put them into foreclosure or work with the community. But we gotta do something. I
There'll
agree.
be something, there'll be some kind of movement, obviously.
Just curious, the crack shack or that, I think it's on Bay Ave, across from where the old hardware store used to be. And, and the next few lots, we should really start paying attention to these dilapidated properties along Bay Ave. That place was like that when I was in fourth grade, and it's still there's no possible way they could ever rehab whatever property is behind the laundromat. There's no way they could ever rehab that. They should have to tear it down.
Oh, you're talking, I know.
Yeah, I guess you
I mean,
could, but if there's anything we can do, especially with peak construction's project. But at one point, the gentleman who owns the old trailer park had said, I can only do so much, but I need the town to do something as well, to.
Maybe they can just give us permission and we'll knock it down ourselves. I'm great at this subject.
Volunteer.
Whatever.
Concerning 315F, I just want to make sure that we are doing code enforcement. And is it possible to hire some temp workers and do like a code enforcement blitz over a week a weekend, I'll volunteer, if you give me, I'll volunteer for training for it and write some tickets. And then also, now that you mentioned the crack jack, that reminds me, there is now an RV parked on the property
Yeah.
that someone's living in. What kind of codes do we have about RVs in town? This is brand new this week, this isn't somebody who's
There's one across
recovering
from
from the sand.
Francesca's also.
What's that?
There's one across from Francesca's also.
But
Their house is
he's
being
raising that house.
Well, I understand it, and then there was one that's down on Atlantic, corner of Atlantic and Bay.
Yeah.
They've been there, I mean, honest, I mean,
Right.
so, or, I don't know if he's part of that family that's living there, or whatever, but that's, we would have to find out first.
Right,
But this situation, maybe the Penton said somebody could park their van there,
I
who
don't know.
knows?
right.
There's one on the bottom of the water, which took a while too. And they were
I'm
losing
hoping,
it.
I'm hoping that one on, near Huddy Park is cause I did see that RV pull in, it's got, I'm gonna knock on the door and make sure it's just family staying for a few days. Unless maybe they're raising.
Knock on the door, go with somebody else.
The guy next to you not gonna do it.
No, we live in great.
I was gonna say right now.
I'm not saying you don't live in a great area.
It's all outside.
Everybody's on as nice as you, you know? I vote to return, thanks for coming out, everybody.
Bye.